The rain had been relentless that night, hammering against the tin roof of the Silver Creek Animal Shelter. The sound was almost deafening, a rhythmic chaos that drowned out the usual nighttime hum of restless animals. Inside the dimly lit office, Laura Matthews, the shelter manager, sighed as she scanned the last intake report of the day. Another stray, another case of neglect. Nothing new, but something about this one unsettled her. Hope had been found curled up under a highway overpass, her golden fur matted with mud and rain, her eyes dull and wary. The truck driver who had brought her in said she hadn't moved when he approached, hadn't growled, hadn't run, just watched him with an expression that felt eerily human. The moment she had been placed in the shelter's intake room, she had done something peculiar. She had tucked her paws tightly under her body, as if shielding them. Even now, in the soft glow of the overhead lamp, she sat in the corner of her kennel, refusing to stretch them out. Lauren's fingers drummed against the desk. The usual routine was simple: intake, health check, quarantine, then placement. But something about Hope felt different. She hadn't been microchipped, no collar, no signs of ownership. Just a nameless, skittish dog hiding her paws like they held some terrible secret. Dr. Evan Carter, the shelter's veterinarian, stepped into the office, running a hand through his graying hair. She still won't let anyone touch her paws? Lauren shook her head. Not even close. It's like she's protecting them. Evan frowned, glancing over at the live feed from the kennel cameras. Hope was still in the same position, her body curled tight. He had seen trauma in dog before, but this was different. The way she withdrew, the way her amber eyes darted with watchful intelligence. It was more than fear. It was as if she knew something. "I want to sedate her," he said. "Just enough to take a look. If she's injured, we need to treat it." Lauren hesitated, but nodded. "Do it." Minutes later, Hope was on the examination table, her breathing slow and even. Evan gently lifted one of her front paws and immediately felt the breath leave his lungs. His grip tightened involuntarily as his eyes locked onto the underside of her pads. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Lauren, standing beside him, leaned in. "What is it?" Evan turned her wrist slightly so she could see. Tiny, deliberate carvings covered the soft flesh of the pads. Not scars, not burns, etched symbols, intricate and precise, as if someone had carefully inscribed them with surgical intent. Lauren inhaled sharply. Who would do this to a dog? Evan's mind raced. He had seen injuries from abuse, neglect, even brutal dogfighting rings. But this was something else entirely. These weren't random wounds. They were deliberate, structured. He took out his phone, snapping a few quick photos before the gravity of the situation fully settled in. "I have no idea," he murmured. "But this isn't just abuse. This means something." Lauren reached for a gauze pad, her hand slightly unsteady. "Do you think it's some kind of branding? Like a sick signature?" Evan's eyes remained fixed on the markings. "No," he whispered. "It's more than that." Hope let out a soft sigh in her sleep, her body limp under sedation. Evan studied the symbols again, his medical mind categorizing the patterns. There was symmetry repetition, almost like a code. A chill ran through him. He glanced at Lauren, who was already on her phone, her expression set. "I'm checking her microchip again." They scanned her once more. This time, something came up, a code, but not a name. No owner, no vet history, just a long string of numbers. Lauren's fingers danced over the keyboard, inputting it into every database she could access. Nothing. It didn't match any public registry. Then, on a whim, she tried an older archive, one rarely used. The system loaded for an agonizing 30 seconds before a result popped up. Missing report filed. The entry was sparse, no owner name, only a note. Information classified. Do not pursue. Lauren's throat tightened. "Evan," she whispered, turning the screen toward him. What the hell is going on? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed violently in his hand. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A deep, measured voice filled the line. "Dr. Carter?" Evan swallowed. "Yes. I understand you have a dog in your care. A golden retriever mix. Female." Evan's grip on the phone tightened. "Who is this?" The voice ignored the question. That dog is no ordinary stray. You need to step away and wait for instructions. Lauren, still reading the cryptic missing report, looked up sharply at Evan's expression. Who is it? She mouthed. Evan's pulse pounded in his ears. What's going on? A pause. Then a chilling statement. That dog is very valuable, and you're not the only one looking for her. The call ended abruptly. The dial tone buzzed in Evan's ear, but the weight of the words settled in his chest like lead. He met Lauren's gaze, unspoken panic passing between them. Then, from the hallway, a soft whimper. Hope had stirred, barely awake. Her amber eyes locked onto Evan with something almost pleading. A dog that had no past, a coded message carved into her paws, and now, an ominous phone call. Lauren exhaled, gripping the edge of the desk. Evan, what the hell did we just stumble into? The answer, Evan feared, was something far bigger than them. Evan stood frozen, his phone still clutched in his hand, the words from the unknown caller echoing in his head. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Step away. Now. Lauren's gaze darted between the unconscious dog on the table and Evan's pale face. Evan! Say something, she urged, her voice tight with unease. He swallowed hard, lowering the phone. Someone's watching us. They knew we had her. Lauren's stomach twisted. How? We only scanned her microchip a minute ago. Evan exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I don't know, but whoever they are, they don't want us looking into her. His eyes flickered back to Hope's paws, still turned upward, exposing the eerie carvings embedded in her pads. Lauren felt an involuntary shiver crawl down her spine. This isn't just some abandoned dog, is it? Evan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he grabbed a pair of latex gloves and carefully traced the intricate markings with his fingers. These symbols, he murmured. They're too precise. This was an accident. Someone put them here for a reason. Lauren leaned in closer, the patterns reminding her of something ancient, almost ritualistic. Do you recognize them? Evan hesitated before reaching for his phone, pulling up the pictures he had taken earlier. I'll run a reverse search. Maybe we can figure out what they mean. His fingers moved quickly over the screen, uploading the images into a database. The shelter was silent except for the hum of the overhead light and the distant patter of rain against the window. Then the screen pinged. Lauren and Evan leaned in. The results loaded, but instead of a simple translation, they were met with something far more chilling. Classified record, restricted access. A warning message blinked in red beneath it. Unauthorized attempt detected. Evan's pulse spiked. Someone doesn't want us digging. Before he could react, the shelter's main power flickered. The lights dimmed, then surged back, casting eerie shadows across the walls. A loud metallic clank echoed through the hallway, like a door had just been forced open. Lauren's breath hitched. Did you hear that? Evan nodded, his jaw tightening. We're not alone. He motioned for her to stay back, then reached for the closest thing that could serve as a weapon, a metal clipboard. It wasn't much, but it was something. He inched toward the hallway, his pulse hammering in his ears. The shelter was usually empty at this hour, save for the dogs in their kennels. But now, something felt different, wrong. A shadow flickered near the entrance, a tall figure moving with calculated purpose. Lauren grabbed his wrist. Evan, we need to call the police. Before he could respond, Hope let out a soft whimper. Even sedated, her body twitched, as if sensing the tension in the room. The intruder paused. Then, in a deliberate motion, they turned toward the exam room. Evan barely had time to react before the door burst open. A man in dark tactical clothing stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of a hood. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, the dim light catching the edge of something metallic in his hand. Lauren's grip tightened on Evan's arm. Who are you? She demanded. The man tilted his head slightly, as if studying them. You need a hand over the dog. Evan instinctively stepped between him and Hope. Not happening. The man exhaled through his nose, almost as if he had expected resistance. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Lauren's heart pounded. Then why don't you enlighten us? The man didn't answer. Instead, he took a slow step forward. Evan clenched the clipboard tighter, knowing it was useless against whoever this was. You're not taking her. The man's gaze flickered toward Hope. She doesn't belong to you. Before either of them could react, the building's emergency alarm suddenly blared to life. The sound was deafening, a shrill wail that echoed through the shelter. Red lights flashed overhead, casting everything in an eerie glow. The man cursed under his breath. Then, without warning, he lunged. Evan barely had time to react before the man shoved him aside, knocking the clipboard from his grip. Lauren let out a sharp cry as she stumbled backward, slamming into the metal cabinets. The man reached for Hope, but just as his fingers grazed her fur, something extraordinary happened. The dog moved, not groggy, not sluggish from sedation, but with an uncanny, almost supernatural speed. One moment, she was lying motionless. The next, her body twisted, paws striking out with precision. The man recoiled, genuine surprise flickering across his face. Hope's eyes locked onto his. For the first time, Lauren noticed something strange about them. They weren't just amber. They were glowing. The man hesitated only a second before regaining his composure. Then, without another word, he turned and bolted out the door. The alarm continued to wail as Evan scrambled to his feet, breathing hard. What the hell was that? Lauren couldn't tear her gaze away from Hope. The dog was standing now, her muscles taut, her breathing steady despite the chaos. She wasn't just some lost stray. She was something else entirely. Evan's breath came fast as the shelter's emergency alarm wailed around them, the flashing red lights making everything feel surreal. Hope stood in the middle of the exam table, her glowing amber eyes locked on the open doorway where the intruder had fled. Her muscles were tense, her ears perked, as if waiting for something, listening. Lauren pressed a hand to her pounding chest. Evan, tell me you saw that. He nodded, unable to form words. His mind raced to make sense of what had just happened. A dog had barely been able to stand a moment ago, had moved with inhuman speed. And those eyes, they hadn't just reflected light. They had emitted their own glow. The security lights flickered again, and for the first time, Evan realized the entire shelter was eerily quiet. The other dogs, normally barking at the slightest sound, had gone completely silent. It was unnatural, as if they sensed something bigger was happening. Hope let out a low, guttural sound, not quite a growl, not quite a whimper. Then, as if making a decision, she leapt from the table. Her landing was smooth, controlled, her body moving with an unnatural grace. She padded toward the door, pausing only once to glance back at them. She wants us to follow, Lauren whispered. Evan hesitated. Every instinct told him that stepping outside was a terrible idea, but another part of him, the part that had always believed in things beyond logic, knew they had no choice. With a nod, they moved together, following Hope out into the dimly lit hallway. The building felt larger now, the echo of their footsteps stretching in the silence. The emergency lights cast long, shifting shadows across the walls, making every corner feel like a threat. Hope led them with steady determination, her head low, her ears twitching at every sound. They reached the main lobby, the front door slightly ajar. Rain pattered softly outside, the storm from earlier now just a whisper against the night. Evan reached the door, but before he could push it open, Hope suddenly stiffened. A deep, rumbling growl rose from her throat, her entire body going rigid. Lauren's breath hitched. She senses something. Evan swallowed, or someone. A dark shape moved beyond the glass, just beyond the reach of the street lamp's glow. Hope's growl grew deeper, more menacing, a warning that sent chills down Evan's spine. And then, just as quickly as the shape appeared, it was gone. Evan exhaled sharply. We need answers. Now. Lauren nodded, pulling out her phone. We should call. Before she could finish, Hope let out a sudden sharp bark and bolted through the door. Hope, wait! But she was already gone, disappearing into the shadows beyond the shelter. Without thinking, they ran after her, pushing into the damp night air. The world outside felt different, quieter, heavier. The storm cloud still lingered, casting an unnatural gloom over the landscape. Hope was ahead, moving with purpose, not running away, but leading them somewhere. Evan and Lauren exchanged a look before following. The dog led them down the street, past the empty storefronts and flickering streetlights. Their shoes slapped against the wet pavement, the night air thick with something they couldn't name. Then, without warning, Hope veered sharply into an alley. Evan hesitated only a second before plunging in after her. The alley was narrow and dark, the kind of place that swallowed sound. The only thing guiding them was a faint glow of Hope's eyes, gleaming like twin lanterns in the dark. She stopped suddenly. Lauren almost collided into Evan as they skidded to a halt behind her. Hope stood in front of a rusted metal door, her ears flat against her head. Evan took a step forward, heart hammering. The door was old, forgotten, hidden between two crumbling brick buildings. He might have walked past it 100 times and never noticed it. But Hope had. Lauren licked her lips. What is this place? Evan reached out, fingers grazing the rusted handle. It was ice cold to the touch, as if untouched for years. Then, before he could react, the door clicked open on its own. A dark passage stretched beyond it, leading down into something deeper, older. Hope stepped inside without hesitation. Evan looked at Lauren. You don't have to come. She let out a shaky breath. Like hell I don't. Together, they followed Hope into the unknown.